Mondays with Mike and Murf. I hope that scared you. This is the Halloween Spooktacular Special. I am your host, Captain Chunk. From the Goonies. And he is Murf's Fan Cave, the actual embodiment of Murf's Fan Cave. What's going on, Murf? Happy Halloween, or Raiderween, as I should call it.
Happy Halloween, Captain Chunk, one of the all-time greatest movies, one of the all-time greatest characters. Mikey, I love your costume, buddy.
Thank you. I love yours. And if people don't recognize, it's your shirt. You're the embodiment of your fan cave.
Yeah, I tried to go for the Murf's Fan Cave logo here with the face paint. You know, Mikey, because I wanted to like wear a mask and be like a Star Wars character or something, but it would be kind of hard to do a podcast when you got like a mask on the whole time, right? So I opted for the Murf's Fan Cave face paint. So yeah, I'm me on my shirt.
Speaking of mask, I'm gonna be honest with you, Murf. If this is a therapy session, I wear a lot of masks every day of my life. I don't know which one is coming out.
We all wear different masks, Mikey, and you've worn a few masks this past week, as have our beloved Raiders, right? Like, we're all over the place. No one knows where. We're just kind of scattered right now, Mikey, and you are a result of the team that you root for, my friend.
Hey, you guys! Can we get a victory? Just a victory Monday? One more victory Monday, please. All right, Murf, what do you got to say to the nation before Halloween?
Hey, real quick, like I am the embodiment of Murf's Fan Cave. And hey, listen, Raider Nation, do me a favor, and I don't ask for much. While you're watching this YouTube video, get out your phone and go to your podcast app, whether you're on Apple or you're on Google or whatever. Go to your podcast app and type in Murf's Fan Cave. And our shows will come up. And do me a favor, do old Murf a favor, subscribe to those shows. We're on any podcast service that's out there. And heck, while you're at it, you can subscribe to our channel as well, which is youtube.com/Murf's Fan Cave. It's down below in the links. I don't do a good enough job, I've been told, of self-promotion. So I'm taking the initiative, Mikey. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, help old Murf out. And yeah, that's it. So thank you for those of you that already do. And I know a lot of you already support what we do over at Murf's Fan Cave, which is Raiders Fan Radio, which is the Fan Club Blitz, and of course Mondays with Mikey and Murf. So thank you to you that are already doing that. But for those of you that haven't, help me out, man. Go hit that button.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna agree. Like when I have time and I tune into your channels, I get a great positive look on the Raiders because I'm in a negative space, let's just be honest. And then I get intelligent feedback, commentary, and I really like it. And I really enjoy your characteristics with your other host, and the other shows are pleasant as well, because your Raiders Fan Cave, your Murf's Fan Cave, your Raiders Fan Radio, your podcast network adds so much to the Raider Nation in terms of everything, and you guys need to support. You guys have all supported me in this channel for many years. Let's get on out there and support this guy, because this guy is saving my life right now, and being a good friend, and it's really helping me personally, and I'm very proud. So check it out. All the links are below. Go subscribe. And any last words before we get into this Halloween Spooktacular Special?
Can we talk more about Halloween and less about this team that we rooted for?
Well, the team is scary. So, that is a Halloween theme.
Oh, goodness.
You ready to do this, Murf? You ready to go into the abyss?
I'm ready, buddy. Every day's Halloween in Raider Nation, isn't it?
All right, we're about to get into I call them the scary headlines, because they're headlines we shouldn't talk about, but we kind of have to. And we're going to give a lot of scary stats. How about stats? Not opinions. All right, it's time for the scary headlines, deadlines, breadlines. They blow my mind. Murf, I just paid my rent. I like scaring people, as you can tell. What's up, Red Nation? It's time for the headlines, deadlines, breadlines. Again, they blow my mind. And Murf, as I just told you, I paid my rent. All right, there's the major headline for this week. We will get more about it in the game recap coming up, and that's going to be a doozy. But do you like my graphics? We're at a haunted house, Murf.
I love your graphics. You do a great job with the graphics always, Mikey. I enjoy it. And seeing that house reminds me of the, since it's Halloween, reminds me of the show, The Haunting of Hill House, that's on Netflix right now. Holy crap. It's a great show. Now, I haven't finished it yet, so no spoilers if you have. I got like 2 episodes left. Whoa, that's a great show.
Headlines, there it is. The Raiders fumble away the game. They gave up 21 unanswered points in the fourth quarter when we were finally in it to win it at home for the fans. And, again, they fumbled it away, more so on defense. We'll get into that in a little bit. But let's get right into the scary headlines. This is a very scary subject for a lot of players, especially Derek Carr this week. There was a report from The Athletic and the Raiders reporters that follow the team. Yeah, they are Bay Area natives, and they're losing their jobs, in the coming years. So maybe they're have an agenda to really out Mark Davis and the Raiders. I cannot dispel that. But the report came out that Derek Carr, according to some of his teammates, is soft, not that tough. So the question I ask in this subject, if you want to get into the whole softness debacle, it's up to you. But the players that said it were anonymous, according to the Marcus Robertson, the reporter. So I'm asking the scary question of who do you think said it and why did they say it and why was this article out there?
Yeah, this one was really disappointing, Mikey, in that there was also another reporter who we've had on Raiders Fan Radio twice, and I'll say this definitively, I won't invite him back on our show again. And not that I'm somebody, but Vic Tafur is somebody that I've had a lot of respect for a lot of years. But this whole recent trend of bashing the team and bashing it based on unconfirmed facts and of opinions and anonymous sources and all that, he's going down a path that I frankly never suspected that he would. And he's kind of an outlier when you look at what a lot of the other Raider reporters, whether it's Steve Corcoran or Jerry McDonald or, those guys, they're not following suit. Now they're mad. And when you read even like today, Bill Williamson from RaidersSnakeBit.com, basically his article was, look, I'm not a fan, but I get it while you guys are mad. I mean, I understand what's going on and it's a mess and the Raiders need to fix it. And I don't think anybody begrudges for that type of reporting, but this kind of like hit piece thing that The Athletic is doing, man, I don't endorse it one bit. And I think that it's unprofessional. And these are the kind of reports out there that, broader scope, these are the kind of things that bring doubt to certain, journalistic entities, and this is one of them, man. And I like The Athletic. Ted Wynn is a great reporter that has also been on Raiders Fan Radio. He's part of The Athletic. I mean, I don't, have anything going for these guys other than positivity until this. And and he's not just here with this story, but there's been a few others as well where he's just kind of throwing out there that, Derek Carr's been told this and Derek Carr's been told that. And frankly, how do you know what Derek Carr has been told? You don't know. You don't know what's going on in the meeting rooms. That's not on Hard Knocks for us to all get a fly on the wall perspective of what the conversations are. And this type of just rampant speculation, Mikey, this is not good for fandom. And frankly, again, it's irresponsible reporting. So because of that, it makes me dismiss all of it. And that's the problem with this kind of stuff, is that there may be nuggets of truth in there, but we'll never know because at least guys like me, I just tune it all out. Once I see that there's a little bit of a, disingenuous, thing going on, I just throw it all out. I just dismiss it all. And then I'll just move on to the next thing. And it's, maybe that's just, maybe that's my bad. And maybe I need to consider looking at it different, but I think it's just irresponsible, Mikey. And I think that it's unfortunate. It's like, talk about literally kicking the Raiders while they're down. I mean, look at that picture right there. They're literally kicking the Raiders while they're down. I mean, come on.
Yeah. I mean, whether he cried or not, again, I don't care. I would cry too. I cry every day of my life. Doesn't make me less of a man. Does not make me powerful on the field. But not in defense of the reporters or whatever, because I truly, believe, even myself at times, I go with the sensational articles. I go with the sensational, clickbait titles, and I talk about a sensational subject because I'm being transparent. I'm trying to get the views. I'm trying to make a few bucks. And I'm caught in the YouTube game, the algorithm game at this point in my life. The reporters as well. The Raiders are leaving. They need sensational articles to find a job elsewhere or whatever, or to get clickbait or viewers, plus The Athletic, the website, the report was put online in 2017, for subscribers, for, to pay for their service. So they need that. And they're realizing that if everybody's going to hate on the Raiders and go with the sensational articles, they might as well do it themselves. Because you can clearly even see it in my videos. I talk good about the Raiders to get 2,000 views. I talk a little wild or crazy or mad about the Raiders, and it gets 5, 7, 8,000 views. That equates to a few extra dollars. And they can see that. And I can see that. So the truth is, they're caught in that game. But in defense, they're telling the truth. Players called Derek Carr soft. So they have to report on it. But they could choose not to, and they could choose not to make it a hateful article, but they didn't because they chose to get subscriptions and views. That being said, the situation is truthful. There is a discord in the locker room by a couple of players and all that. So I don't know why they did it, but they did it.
That's the key right there, is somebody named, I don't know, does it rhyme with Roos Mervin? Is that somebody that's disgruntled and might speak out against somebody like Derek Carr? Well, sure, but that's not a widespread, disconnect within the locker room. And I think that's the part where it gets dangerous. And that these speculative articles, when they're thrown out there, that they get widely embraced because they go out to the public, and it's just dangerous because here's the big difference, Mikey. Look, I don't begrudge you one bit for doing anything you've ever done in terms of YouTube. And look, and you would self-admit that you don't fabricate a headline, but you'll embellish. You'll make something big out of it in order to attract attention. Okay, but here's the difference. You and me are amateurs. And look, I would love it if somebody paid me full-time to do Raiders Fan Radio. I would love it if somebody paid me full-time to do Mondays with Mikey and Murf. And one of these days, if 1 million of you start subscribing to Raiders Fan Radio, I might call it a career in my real-life job, and I might do something like this full-time. I would love to. It would be a dream come true. But the fact of the matter is, that's most likely not going to happen. I am perfectly fine with being an amateur podcaster, amateur videocaster, and I admit it, and I tell everybody, I don't have any connections to the team. I am at 100% a fan. I've had the good fortune of interviewing people connected with the team, including current players, former players, media members, you name it. I've interviewed a lot of people connected with the Raiders, but I'm not. I just reach out to people. I just try to be nice and ask them for their time. And I try to build relationships with people. But I'm an amateur. Vic Tafur and The Athletic are not. They are credentialed members of the media. They are NFL authorized reporters. And this is the trash that they're putting out there. That's the part of it that's absolutely devastating to me. And again, I can't speak highly enough about the way that those folks have been in the past. Again, I've reached out to Vic Tafur. He's joined us on our show. He's been gracious with his time, and he's been nothing but great every time we've ever interviewed him. So when I see stuff like this, that's what's disappointing, man. And and I say this a lot, and I'll say this, and then I'll shut up, Mikey. We've just got to be guarded when it comes to being, whether it's just consumers of media in general, but in particular with our team. We've just got to take all of it into account and make up our minds for ourselves. Because if you take one person's opinion, then odds are you're going to be off. Whether it's Mike Silver, Vic Tafur, Tim Kawakami, there's a bunch of them out there because people have agendas when it comes to the Raiders, and they will float something out there that's either not true or is detrimental to the team as far as opinion goes, just to take a shot at the Raiders. There's my soapbox.
Yeah, I like Vic Tafur. I don't think he's the problem. I think Vic Tafur just reports the questions as is. It was Marcus Robinson that wrote the article. And then Tim Kawakami seems to be the one that really is going after the sensational headlines. Vic Tafur is reporting on their work. I don't really, want to put the hate on Vic Tafur, but I think it's more so Marcus Robinson and Tim Kawakami.
Well,
so I just wanted to state that.
Well, and all the way back to Kawakami's days with the Mercury News, he's always had pardon my language, he's always had a hard-on for the Raiders. So that's nothing new there. That guy's taking shots at the Raiders all the way back to when I was living in San Jose and reading the Mercury. I mean, that's just been his thing. So there's almost like an accepted amount of that to come from him. But from these other guys, that's certainly where I definitely didn't expect it. And I am going to pin a lot of this on Vic because we're going to talk about the game later. He tried to take a shot at Gruden face-to-face about the way that the tight ends have been performing. And I got some data in here, Mikey, that'll back up how ridiculous it was for him to try to challenge John Gruden on the performance of the freaking Colts tight ends, man. I just don't like his tactics that are going on here lately. It's really bad form.
That's what I'm saying. It's all pounding on, so they're going after the articles, because it's working. They got picked up by major news outlets, so it's working. So now they're going to dig deeper. And again, it's a choice. It's a ethical choice on each reporter's part whether to do that. And it appears it's going in that trend. Real quick, who do you think said that Derek Carr was soft, and who's anonymous in these reports, and why?
Yeah, I got to think it's somebody like Bruce Irvin. It's somebody that's disgruntled with their situation, and so they're taking a shot at someone else. It's often, that's what weak-minded people do, is that they will try to knock someone else down instead of lifting themselves up. And and I'm a big fan, Mikey, that instead of rallying against the dark, I'm a fan of turning up the light, right? If something's wrong, then lift other people up and try to help foster their own successes, so their success in turn will foster yours. But you got to build your teammates up. And so anybody that's willing to do this, you ready to bleep me? I'm going to curse for the first time on this show. That is a chicken shit move. If you're so goddamn chicken shit to take a shot at your quarterback anonymously, then you're not somebody I would want on this football team anyways. See you, goodbye. And if it's Bruce Irvin or whoever it is, I hope you're gone next year, because that's ridiculous. If you're going to take a shot at Derek Carr, your leader, like this, then at least be man enough, have the balls to put your name on it. That's what Herm Edwards says, right? Be a man. Put your name on it, right? Famously, put your dang name on it. You're going to have a big mouth, then put your name on it. I'm not shy. Murf's Fan Cave, MurphFanCave.com, Vic Tafer. I'll put my name on anything that I ever have to say. You want to be critical of somebody, put your damn name on it. Don't do this anonymous crap. This is garbage, dude. I hope they're gone.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's true or not, but I could see Bruce Irvin being one of them. But also, and I'm not trying to hate, it possibly could be a Marshawn Lynch. I mean, him and Derek Carr last year, Marshawn Lynch is an alpha male. He's an alpha male.
No doubt.
And Derek Carr sit there and took it, especially early on, from Marshawn Lynch. Marshawn Lynch came to the team with his culture, with his thing, the anthem protest, all that other stuff. Marshawn is an alpha male, and Derek Carr took it. And he might have still been taking it from everybody. And even Derek Carr says in his press conferences, I will never change. He doesn't want to choose sides. So I don't know. It could be a Marshawn Lynch when he was on IR. They got a little report, but I don't know. I'm not saying that. And it could be an offensive lineman that's still with the team, a la Donald Penn or anybody else as well. It's a very scary situation, but Derek Carr is not soft. That's all I'm going to say. All right. Derek Carr in the report had a fractured relationship with his teammates. That is much certain, but the word teammates implies almost everybody, and that's wrong. They should have wrote a few, but it's a sensationalist headline, like I stated. And in coming to his defense was Lee Smith. This was very interesting because Lee Smith spoke with pride for Derek Carr, but I don't want to go into it because I'm afraid to. But Lee Smith, Jack Del Rio, and Derek Carr was one of the only few members last year that decided to stand when the rest of the team sat. That might have created the divide. We'll get into that in a minute. But I didn't see no offensive linemen really come out to support on video, although Mongo apparently did it on Twitter. But I would have liked to see more support from the rest of the team. And Derek Carr responded to these reports. So Derek Carr is a little insecure, but I'm proud he finally showed some moxie and responded. And, now he can lead the team moving forward. It clearly didn't think he. So let's listen to Lee Smith defend him, and then let's hear your take after that, Murf.
These reports about this locker room being fractured with Derek Carr is the most obnoxious and ridiculous thing I've heard ever. It's to the point to where it's comical and laughable that I'm even sitting here talking about it. Us as players have zero issue with Derek Carr. He is our leader. He's always been our leader. We put a C on his chest for a reason, along with Rodney Hudson. And regardless of what face he makes after a tackle or what everybody wants to dive into and wear him out about, attacking his character or attacking him as a leader on this football team is a joke.
Go for it, Murphy.
Yeah, I think ultimately what you said at the top of this segment about is there a fracture between certain players? I'm sure that happens. You work with people. Everybody works with somebody that you don't get along with, right? It happens. It's life. We're all human beings, and not everybody's going to get along all the time. So I think I agree with you 100% as far as this is sensationalized. And so to then have Lee Smith, look, this was a very calculated thing. This isn't something where he just kind of went off on his own. You could tell this was a very meditated, thought out, well-planned statement. And at the end of it, he even says, look, I don't want to take questions, but you guys are all here, so I'll go ahead and answer some questions. So I'm more than positive that I don't think Derek Carr was necessarily involved with it, but I'm sure that it was Lee Smith and multiple other teammates that agreed that this would be the way then to handle it. And here's what I think ultimately out of all this. And again, I'm gonna turn up the light. I'm not gonna rally against the dark, Mikey. I think the good news in all of this is that this is going to galvanize this team for whoever's left. And I think this was the opportunity, and I've said this critically about Derek Carr for a long time, is that the aw shucks, oh gee, we'll get him next time kind of attitude that he has at times, I think tends to fall flat. That you at some point, now look, I don't need him to be a screaming mess and getting in people's faces, but I do want to see him be a little bit more aggressive and holding not only other people accountable, but just having an accountability to the overall performance of everything. I want to see a little more passion out of him, and a la a Gannon or Marino or you name it. Again, not to quite that level because that's not his character, but you just got to have that accountability to yourself and to others. And so, and just, kind of dismissing everything and always taking responsibility for every little thing that goes wrong, that doesn't necessarily make you a good leader. It just makes you humble, which is not a bad trait to have. But what I'm saying, though, is that I think this is then the opportunity for Derek to get fiery and fire back. And so not only is he firing back, but clearly Lee Smith is firing back. John Gruden is firing back. Like, I love that the team is now essentially rallying behind the quarterback, and then Derek Carr is rallying on his own benefit on his own behalf, which is something that we've never seen out of him. So I think at the end of the day, Mikey, after all this is said and done, we're going to come out the better of this. And I think we even saw it on Sunday. I mean, the demeanor of not only Derek Carr, but his interaction with his teammates after plays and on the sidelines, they were smiling, they were having fun. It was just a whole different personality of this team this weekend. So again, I think this is going to be a good thing going forward.
Yeah, I agree. Some of the players that are being purged are maybe Gruden found out that they had issues with Carr or whatever for whatever reasons. And sometimes we all need a kick in the butt. And, I'm going to say Derek Carr needed one too. Derek Carr is he is a leader. He's not soft, but he's complacent. At many times, you just fall into the routine of things, and you need a kick in the butt. And then you need to be more vocal, and he even said it. He goes, I was finally more vocal this week, and it showed in the game.
Yep.
So kudos to Carr. And I'm kind of happy this story came out because it lit a fire under our quarterback, and I really am proud to see that. So this story came out. E.J. Manuel went on the herd, and I, for 2 years, have been trying to find out what happened last year. Because when I can't find out the answers, I freak out. And I didn't know if the Donald Trump tweet situation about the anthem invaded the locker room last year and created a divide. We all thought it did. We all weren't sure because nobody spoke about it, which is kudos to the Raiders. But again, it all comes out. And E.J. Manuel went on the herd and spoke about what happened last year in the locker room versus Washington and why some kind of have a disdain toward Derek Carr up to this point.
and obviously he's going to take all the bullets because they're 1-6, 1-7, whatever right now. But I do think he has the moxie to be a long-time quarterback.
Do guys respect him?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think
now there was a report last year.
Right.
Now I should note, I think this is really hard. Mm-hmm. He's a Christian kid.
Right.
He, the whole flag issue, the kneeling issue, it was tough for everybody. I'm not blaming anybody.
Of course.
Okay, it was tough for our network.
Right.
There were reports that he had ticked off a few dudes in the room.
Yeah.
Are those true?
I think so. In that moment, I remember that it was before we played the Redskins.
Yes.
And that was the week President Trump was saying what he said, and obviously we all felt away. And so, it kind of put Derek in a position where it was hard for him to, say, hey, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. It was almost like he had to pick sides.
Yes.
And he tried to stay as neutral as possible. And I think that might have rubbed some guys the wrong way.
I think it was hard for everybody.
It was hard for everybody. It was uncomfortable, honestly. It was extremely uncomfortable, and I felt like that game is where our season kind of fell off the road a little bit last year. We got beat pretty bad versus the Redskins, and I felt like that was somewhat of a distraction that we had to face, going into that game.
Yeah, I'm just happy to hear it because it kind of stopped something in my head, and I know it happened, and now it's real. E.J. Manuel spoke on it. Your last words on this, do you think it's still in the locker room with a few players, or, what's your take?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that there's any lingering effects. I mean, even in that Lee Smith, diatribe, he mentions that, Rodney Hudson is the godfather to Lee Smith's son, right? I mean, I think those, and Lee Smith is one of those guys that stood for the anthem. So, I mean, I think that those, any of the animosity from last year has subsided. But this is exactly why, you can refer to them as distractions. You can say, you can put a lot of labels on a lot of different things, but this is why teams don't like this kinds of stuff. This is why, and I'm not taking a side, and I'm not saying that things, the messaging wasn't necessary, and I'm not, the issue aside, why you don't want things like this happening in your locker room. This is exactly why. And if you don't think that this impacted the trajectory of the Raiders last year, then I think you're mistaken, because it clearly did. And, and everybody's right to feel however, regardless of where you come out on it, you have the right to feel that way. And, and sometimes it's hard to cope with it when someone else doesn't believe and think the same way that you think and feel. So, I think we're over it. I think we're past it, and glad to, but look, I mean, that team was 2-0 at the time. I mean, and playing well. We came into Nashville and thumped the Titans, who were an eventual playoff team that went and beat the Chiefs. We beat the crap out of the Jets at home. That was Marshawn dancing on the sideline. Our team was on a roll, buddy. Still coming off that 12-4 season, and then all of a sudden we only won 4 games from that point on, and we got shellacked on that night in Washington, D.C. against the Redskins. I mean, it wasn't even a good game. So you could definitely, I think, chalk it up that there was some, that discontent in the locker room and all that stuff. It definitely impacted the team for the length of that season. And this is my last thing I'll say on it. I think this is what frankly cost Jack Del Rio his job. I don't think Jack Del Rio was a bad coach for the Raiders. I think that he had the fortune of being willing to take a risk, but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But ultimately, his inability to manage men, that's what cost him his job. And that's where my hope is that somebody like John Gruden, that if and when something like this comes up again, we'll see how the team responds. I mean, I think we a little bit saw it this week, right? That the team rallied behind Derek Carr. That was a good thing, right? Because Jack Del Rio didn't have the ability to help manage the team through that kind of drama, where hopefully somebody like John Gruden does.
Yeah, I mean, I still think it has a lingering effect to this day. I mean, because Derek Carr was questioned last year, whether he agreed or not, and it pissed people off. There are still certain remnants from last year's team that are still on this team. So that goes to Derek Carr's leadership. He didn't want to pick a side. So they want that from their leader. They wanted their leader to stand or sit and kneel with them or whatever, and it didn't happen. So they took that as not leadership. And I still think it's bled into the locker room today, but I think they are slowly being purged. And then Derek Carr, through this animosity, that's why some of the players called him soft or not. I still think it goes back to last year, because he didn't want to yell back at Marshawn when they were fighting. Marshawn was an alpha male, It's like Derek Carr became the beta. And you're a quarterback of the Raiders. You're getting $25 million. You can't be a beta. You got to be an alpha male to certain people. It's like the jail terms. You go to jail, you got to take out the biggest, hardest guy on day one. Everybody sees you as a tough alpha male. But yes, I think it lingered to today, but I'm glad it's all coming out. And now we can hopefully move on.
Yeah.
And Derek Carr is showing his leadership. And I'm just happy. It feels like an end to this crap. And I'm happy about that. All right. Another scary, whoops, my logo didn't cut off. John Gruden accountability is reportedly doubted by players. Again, certain players, not all. But talk on this, you know. Do you think John Gruden is not being held accountable? I mean, he's saying a lot of things. I don't know. What's your take, brother, on this whole accountability issue by the players on the team?
Yeah, I mean, I don't understand a lot. I mean, so we look at the terms used. John Gruden's accountability doubted. Accountability to who? Like, is John Gruden, accountable to what? Accountable to his word, accountable to his performance, accountable to it? Like, I don't know. And whatever it is, whatever seeds of doubt are in play in the locker room about either the quarterback or the coach or ownership or any of that stuff, I promise you it's by disgruntled players that aren't going to be around for very long. Because that's the bottom line, is that, look, if anything we've learned in this offseason or so far this season, it's that the Raiders have a scheme, a very specific offensive and defensive scheme, and they're going to acquire players to plug into that scheme. And if you don't fit into that scheme, you're going to be gone, and they have the leeway to wait until they get those players acquired because none of them are in danger of losing their job. John Gruden's not going anywhere. Gunther's not going anywhere. These guys aren't going anywhere. So they have the good fortune of time at hand to be able to build players into the scheme that they have. Because there's two ways to build a football team. You can either scheme around the players that you have existing, or you can acquire talent to fit into your scheme. And clearly that's what the Raiders are doing. So, so anybody that's kind of left out, and we see some of these players and we're like, well, why isn't he playing that guy more? Why isn't that person playing more? Why? It's because they don't fit the scheme, because they don't fit into what the Raiders are trying to do, and they're unapologetically doing it. And so, you can have an opinion on that, and I think all whatever as a fan, however that makes you feel is fair. But just know this, man, the Raiders are going to do it whether we like it or not. This thing is going to take time to play out. That we know for sure. And it's probably going to be a 3-year process.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Gruden is learning on the job just like any NFL player. Gruden came in here with one idea, and then it all changed. All the variables, the Khalil Mack situation, whatever is going on in the locker room, whatever, it all hit him. And then he started, saying things, positive for the team, winning, bringing in free agents, selling, the Oakland fans on the team and all that, and winning. And it just didn't happen. But you can say that his accountability, if you're going to stand up there and tell people that you're winning, you're bringing free agents, you're going to sign Khalil Mack, you're going to keep Derek Carr, you're going to, not trade Amari Cooper. Again, when you put that out into the public, then everything changes. Your accountability is definitely going to be questioned by certain people, especially the veteran free agents he brought in to buy into his system. And they look like they're all on the block and they're rebuilding. And I don't think they knew that going in. I don't think any Raider player knew that we were going to rebuild this much going in. And I honestly don't even think Gruden thought we were going to rebuild this bad until after we lost a couple of games, lost Khalil Mack, and then it just – so it's – I agree. I think his accountability is doubted by certain players, and they're going to be gone. But it is – let me just say, I hold him accountable as well in all my videos. So I want him to just shut up.
Well,
Stop being positive.
I think if anything, John Gruden would want back, and here's where I, chalk it up, Raider Nation. I'm going to be critical of John Gruden. one of the things, I think he got out in front of himself a little bit too much because he bought into himself a little bit too much. And I think he thought just because his name was John Gruden and he was returning to the Raiders, that everybody was going to come flocking to Oakland because they wanted to be part of what it was that he had. And whether that was Khalil Mack or whether it was whoever, I think that he felt like he was going to have an immediate impact and immediate success just because he was John Gruden. And look, and he's John Gruden because of a lot of work ethic and a lot of other things that go on. So I don't think he expected anybody to hand him anything, but I think he kind of bought his own hype a little bit. And that's always a dangerous place to be, you know, and I've been critical of a lot of players over the years about doing that same thing because all that pride typically leads to a fall. And, you know, thankfully, John Gruden's got a lot of time here to rectify the situation. And so I don't think he's going to fall forever. But, you know, he's got the good fortune of a long-term guaranteed deal in the NFL where a player doesn't. You know, when players do this to themselves, they're out of the league because they only got a small window. It's very finite, the amount of playing time you have.
Like 3 years.
Yeah, exactly. Years. So you start buying into, I'm not going to say that. There's a certain quarterback that bought into himself and he's not in the league anymore. You know what I'm saying? And there's a lot of reasons behind that from a performance perspective. I didn't want to say it because I want people to draw any political connotations to it. But when you buy into yourself on the field and you don't produce, then guess what? Look what happens to you. You know what I mean? And that's not, there's a lot of players that happens to. It's not just one guy, but that's just an example. Oh, great. Here come the emails. I shouldn't open my mouth. I'm in trouble now, Mikey. Here they come. I can't read the chat, but I'm sure the chat's going to light up and tell me whatever I am.
Don't worry about it.
All right.
The Raiders slogan is just win, baby. And again, regardless if we're going through a rebuild or if I understand what Gruden is doing and we got all these draft picks, I want to win, okay? I don't care. Whatever's going on the outside of the field, every week I want to win. And, you know, I rant and rave in my videos and I get mad when we lose. Then someone wrote me and said, losing is good for the Raiders because we're going to get a better draft position. And that just hurt my heart. So I wrote a poll. I go, do you guys agree with that statement that losing is good for the Raiders in any aspect? Because that's a culture. Losing is a culture. And it's clearly here with the Raiders team. And you don't want that to infect your life, the locker room, and all that. Losing is a culture. So it's not good to lose from my perspective. So they want the Raiders to tank and they think it's good. And here's the results. The overwhelming majority of those votes at that time, 61% think it's good to lose and to tank for position. I mean, we're going to get an early draft pick no matter what position, and we're going to have 3 of them this year. So why lose? Why would you want that on your soul? Just quick response to this. It hurts my heart that the losing culture has now invaded its way into the Raider Nation.
I mean, if you're looking at this and you're taking solace in the fact that, well, okay, we suck, but hey, at least we're going to get a good draft pick, that's fair. And I think that a lot of us, look, it's like, haha, Colts, joke's on you. We're going to pick higher than you are at the end of the year, right? Like, it's kind of fun to have those type of thoughts just because that way it helps you kind of deal with the losing. But to root for it and to encourage it and to want it to happen, absolutely not. And I think that completely goes against anything competitive at all. And if you're a fan, especially a hardcore one, you're competitive. No, I don't. I will hope the Raiders win out. You know what I mean? I don't think they're going to. And every time they do lose, I'm like, well, okay, well, that's just another notch up the position of the draft board. But I would never, ever root for that. No, and I'm highly disappointed to any of you that would think that way, vote that way, and sound off that way, that you're hoping for the team to lose. That's just a ridiculous idea. You only got 16 of these things every year. Why would you want to watch one of them take an L? I don't get that thinking at all.
Especially in one of their last games. And losing is not good for the Raiders in a general statement. It is not good in any. This is a big one. You're very intelligent on the subject, but, are all these trades, etc., because the Raiders are officially broke until they move to Vegas? Because, Davis loans to people. When they pay their upfront money or the guaranteed money, that money apparently has to go into an escrow, and maybe Mark Davis doesn't have it. Mark Davis doesn't have the TV money till 2019 from this year. Are the Raiders broke? And is that why some of these big moves are being made from your perspective?
no. An emphatic no. The reason that I feel as strongly as I do about this, and I've gotten into the details about the Raiders, and Mark Davis is a businessman, and the Raiders are now worth $2.4 billion, which is up $1 billion from when he took control of the team and whatnot. But here's the thing that always I will come back to on stories like this is that the players' salaries are bigger than the Raiders. Okay. And what I mean by that is that all this stuff is negotiated via the collective bargaining agreement, and it's negotiated by the league, and it's negotiated by the players union, and all of the players' contracts are all guaranteed by the collective bargaining agreement. That's why no one shows up on game day and doesn't get their game check, right? All these salaries are all essentially guaranteed by the CBA. So all of that stuff, all the revenue, anything that you see when you see reports of teams and how they make money, all the revenue is all outside of the players' contracts. All that stuff is already accounted for. And I know people like to throw out this whole escrow thing and all that. All I can say to you is this: they are not you. And, I am not the Raiders. They are not you. I mean, not you, Mikey, but the proverbial you. They're not, humping lumber at a construction job trying to make their rent check here. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is, you're talking about a multi-billion-dollar global organization that's way bigger than the Raiders. And so that's where these things are guaranteed at. They're not guaranteed, and they're not taken care of at the Raiders level. And I'm sure somebody will have a rebuttal to that. And I've heard them all. But at the end of the day, I haven't heard one argument back that anybody has ever thrown at me that counters what the collective bargaining agreement states. They can throw all this Raiders crap at me all day long, but everything that they've ever had to say never can counter what the NFL has to say. This is an NFL thing. This is an absolute business decision based on the value of their roster. It has nothing to do with how much cash they got in the bank.
I mean, articles are coming out, and by a lot of respected people, that are possibly financial gurus or whatever. So there's got to be some validity to this report. And Mark Davis has always been a owner, and he doesn't have businesses on the side. The amount the Raiders get for the TV money every year. So I don't know. I mean, they don't get paid for the TV money till so the $400 million they aimed for Vegas this year for the starting of the construction before the money might have been from David. He might be low on funds, and they're trying to save money for the future. Or they could be saving money for the bankroll for the players when they get to Vegas, trying to create that Patriot system. I don't know what's going on, but I truly that Mark Davis is not broke, but he definitely is pinching everywhere, even during this rebuild, not wanting to pay players, and I'll think it all goes together as one. So I think there is some validity to the report, but I don't think they're trading all these players because they can't find the money. All right. Thank you very much. And this is a very good question. The reason I put this in there, because I wanted to find your answer, Murf. Is it smart during a proven Gruden rebuild, is it smart for the Raiders to have a $125 million quarterback on the roster, basically 20 to 25 million every year in a rebuild, during a rebuild? Is that smart?
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a quarterback, and you got to have one that's, you don't think he's elite. I don't think that he's hit that designation yet, but, all you got to do is watch the game last week, and he certainly has the physical abilities to be so. And I think that if surrounded by the proper, if surrounded by a team like what the Packers are or whatever, then I think you would see a lot different Derek Carr, and I think it's his career and his designation is yet to be defined. So based on that, I think, that you stick with him because it's the hardest thing to find. And while there's a lot of, lot to be said for teams hitting on Carson Wentz and Jared Goff and Patrick Mahomes, but there's also Blake Bortles and Ryan Tannehill, right? Like, these things don't always just work out just because you get a high draft pick and you draft a quarterback. It just happens a little more frequently nowadays than it did, 10, 15, 20 years ago. So, I still think it's the smart money, to bet it on your hopefully franchise quarterback. Yeah, because it's the hardest thing to find. So I think absolutely they're headed the right direction. I mean, now if it was a more questionable player than Derek Carr, then I would say absolutely not. But I mean, he's he very rarely gives us reason to think that he can't be that guy. Most of the time, he's pretty freaking good. It's just occasionally he'll make a weird decision with the football, and he's done it more this year than he has in years past. So I think Carr's going to be our guy. I said it last show, and I say it again. Mark Davis is going to be your owner. John Gruden's going to be your coach, and Derek Carr is going to be your quarterback from now until whenever. Like, for the indefinite future, those three guys are going to be the card-carrying members of Raider Nation. So the quicker you can get used to it, the better.
I just posted a poll that, if the Raiders trade Derek Carr, they're on board with Gruden. 63% of the people, Gruden can do no wrong, even if he trades Derek Carr. So that was the poll. No need for a response. We got to get the show moving. Any last-second trades before tomorrow's deadline do you see happening? Who and why?
I think there's a handful of players that they would be willing to trade, but I don't think there's enough value associated with them to make a move. Bruce Irvin's a prime example. No one's going to take an aging defensive end that can't get to the quarterback for a whole bunch of money.
Yeah, I think if anybody goes, there's rumors about Osemele. I don't think he's going to be traded because the Raiders need the offensive line too much. But next year, I don't know, with the offensive line, certain players, they're getting a lot of money. I don't know what's going to happen. But I could definitely see Garyon Conley, Carl Joseph being put together and traded, maybe even Bruce Irvin, if we can get a late-round pick for him. So expect a lot of news tomorrow from the Raiders. The only problem I have is we're not shopping or we're not buying. It seems like we're selling.
Yeah, they are in the draft pick acquisition business, Mikey. And, it's not necessarily a bad tactic, man. That's how you build depth. And, depth is what wins football games. It's what wins championships. And you got to build around a core of players. You can't just build around one guy on your defense. You got to build around a defensive core. And that's what the Raiders, hopefully are doing here. And, while it sucks to lose a player like Khalil Mack, you take all those picks, and then that's what you build a core. That's how you build a Legion of Boom. You do it through the draft. You don't go out there and just sign a bunch of guys, right?
Yeah, I wish he would have rebuilt on the foundation that was already set, regardless of the contracts. I just felt like we had a good nucleus, but it didn't happen, so I got to move on. There's the headline. The Raiders fumble away the game. We don't got to talk about it. Doug Martin was balling out. I mean, he was playing all right, for what it was, but more that fumble crushed us. Before the game, Daryl Worley, he's Gruden's guy, apparently. He's being started over Garyon Conley and everybody. So Gruden loves him some Daryl Worley. And then Daryl Worley wore these Gruden cleats before the game in the warm-up. What do you think on that subject? I think they look – it's like a bad Gruden and a good Gruden. I don't know. It's weird. I
love it, man. I think that's fantastic. I like Daryl Worley a lot, man. I've sung his praises quite a bit already this year. And, I think he's just a great addition to our football team on and off the field. And, look, the guy, he ran into a rough patch, and he did a goofy thing. He did a dumb thing. And, but he's paid his penance, and hopefully he's been willing to move. Look, we've all done dumb stuff, especially in our 20s. Like, raise your hand if you've done anything dumb with alcohol in your 20s. He just did a dumb thing, and thankfully he was able to, like I said, rectify it. And, man, I think he's going to be a long-term solution for us at cornerback.
Here we go. I was a little confused about the inactives. I don't know if you read this, but they brought up Marshall Aitman, and then he was inactive. I don't know why, for LaFell, I guess. Martavis Bryant didn't show up. We'll talk about that a little bit. Shalik Calhoun, both the linebackers were inactive. Emmanuel Lemur, against his former team, the free agent that they brought in was inactive, a healthy inactive. And that just kind of boggled my mind. Then Rashawn Melvin, they had a Twitter war or whatever a week or two ago. Was that in punishment? And then Reggie Nelson, were they, selling the groceries and Carl Joseph and all that? But I don't know. I have a few questionable decisions about these healthy inactives. Did you have any issues with this? Because I do.
I don't have any issues with it, but I think that there's definitely, whether was Melvin a punishment? I claimed him as my X factor in this game, being that he was going to go up against his old team, and like you said, he was a scratch. So I don't necessarily have a problem with it, but I do. It was curious though. There were some of these were definitely curious. The one that got me was the Reggie Nelson one. I feel like. And I'll get into it here later about some of the tight end production and our inability to cover a tight end for the Raiders. I feel like they threw Carl Joseph to the wolves. It was like, this was like, I felt like going into the trade deadline, this was a make or break game for him. Like the coaching staff effectively put him on blast. It was like, okay, you want to be part of this team? Go out there and let's see how it goes. And he got owned, brother.
Yeah, I don't understand Emmanuel Lemur if he's that bad. It left the team with only 5 linebackers. And Gruden in a press conference said we needed to bring up 8 offensive linemen. Well, it's not like you added and subtracted. There's always 8 offensive linemen for, the team every week. So Gruden's press conference summary said we needed to bring up offensive linemen because of all the injuries. Well, you have 8 every week, and he said we had 8. So I was just a little confused. I don't know, but it's weird. It's just weird. The free agents that they brought in to play didn't play, and they're selling the rookies or whatever, but it just proves they're not trying to win, that they're more so trying to sell players, to get draft picks. That's just from my view.
No, I felt like it was an evaluation period, and of course they're not going to say that. You're not going to say that they're doing that in the regular season, and this goes back to the conversation we had last week about what is tanking and what is still trying to do your best to win, but you're just going to only win with certain players. That's what this felt like to me. Is like, okay, this is going to be your turn. Let's go see what we really got in you before we make a decision whether you're going to be part of this football team going forward or not.
Yeah, I kid you not. I wish I could bring up the clips and prove everything, but Gruden said, we're not tanking. We're putting the best players on the field to win, and all that other stuff. We're not here to evaluate. We're here to win. And then later in the press conference at the end, he says, yeah, it isn't a sort of an evaluation. Like, It just, the statements are just, they don't coexist with me.
Right.
But at least Gruden went after Tim Kawakami and The Athletic when they asked him a serious question. Gruden from Tim I can't pronounce it. Kawakami. I asked Gruden. I asked Gruden about fighting through the controversies of the last week that they created. But I asked Gruden about fighting through the controversies of the last week, and Gruden said, whether you're starting the controversy, I'm starting the controversy, is we made a trade, but I don't think it hurt the offense today. Called out The Athletic, and I like that statement. What do you say on that subject? I'm just happy Gruden finally announced it.
This is what I'm talking about. They're firing back a little bit. You know what I mean? They're getting a little more protective and defensive. I like it. Instead of being Johnny Gundrops and, Derek, Chucks, everything's fine. No, fire back at these fools, man. They're going to make statements like that to you, then fire right back at them. I like it.
Again, sometimes you could say Gruden deserves it, though, because of all the back and forth. But again, maybe that's just his character, and everybody makes mistakes and says one thing 1 minute and another thing another minute, myself included. Believe me, if you go back to all my videos, I'm probably, I don't know. But Scott Bair also wrote that Gruden said in his post-game press conference, I just hope that the Raider fans out there understand that we're doing everything we can. I know it can get ugly at times, but in a lot of ways, I'm excited for the future. But here's the statement that I want to dive into. He said, I want Raider fans to understand that we're doing everything we can. Everything you can to what? To tank, to get draft picks, to evaluate, or to lose, or to win. He didn't add a statement to that. He didn't say we're doing everything we can to win. He didn't say we're doing everything we can to get draft picks, to evaluate. So it just bothers my mind that he didn't put his word on it, that the Raiders are doing everything they can to win. But it also shows that he might be trying to be filtered now. Like, personally, he might be trying to be filtered in what he says. I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting statement.
Yeah, you know what? I've been thinking about a funny segment to do on Raiders Fan Radio and call it like the What I Really Meant machine, where we take a quote and then we put it into the machine and it comes out and you get the actuality of it. And this, when you look at how he tags it, but in a lot of ways, I'm excited about the future. What this whole thing means is that he's saying, I hope the Raiders fans understand we're going to do everything that we can with the players that we choose at this point that aren't going to compromise our ability to acquire even more players in the future. I know it can get ugly at times, but in a lot of ways, I'm excited about the future because we're going to have all these draft picks and all this talent acquisition that's going to make our team really, really good. That's the truth of it all. but he's not going to say that, right? He's not going to come out and say that. But I mean, these are self-inflicted parameters, you know what I mean? They are confines, if you will, of what the Raiders are operating under. You know, if they were really trying to win every single football game, they not only would have signed Khalil Mack, but they would have made a trade for somebody else. They would have made a trade for Earl Thomas or what, you know what I mean? Like, they would have been, you know, just throwing all caution to the wind and trying to acquire as many, you know, great players as they could. But that mortgages your future. And so here's the thing is that, do we really think now, here we are halfway through the season, do we really think that our Raiders, even if we kept Khalil Mack and even if we signed Amari Cooper, if all these guys, do we really think that under the most optimum conditions, we would be in a position to compete with the most elite teams in the NFL? Do you really think that if the Raiders were at their best based on how they were previously built, they would have competed with the Chiefs? They would compete with the Saints. They would compete with the Rams. The answer to that question is no. So the fact that they're kind of blowing this thing up a little bit, I get it, man. It makes sense because we were not there. We might have been 9-7, 10-6. Heck, we might even be 11-5 and had a second-round playoff exit waiting for us. But that's not winning a Super Bowl. And that's the goal of this organization, and that's the goal of John Gruden, is to win a freaking Super Bowl. They're not aiming to be good. They're aiming to be great. And sometimes you got to burn down the forest before the fresh leaves grow up, right?
Yeah, I've accepted it. I don't like it, but I've accepted it. But you're completely right. Gruden didn't want to say we're doing everything we can to win, because then we can backtrack that statement with all his moves and trades and then clearly prove that he's not doing everything he can to win. In his statement, he should have said, we're doing everything we can to win in the future. It's always the future with the Raiders, you know, and I'm just tired of it. The greatness lies in the future and this, and now I'm tired of the future. I want the present. Paul Guenther, is he misfitting players that are killing the Raiders on defense? Meaning putting players in the wrong position to cover and all this other stuff. I'll just give my quick summary. You got a great take on. I mean, these are the players the Raiders drafted, and Paul Guenther knew he had coming into the team, whether it be a 5'10", you know, Carl Joseph, 5'10", Marcus Gilchrist, who they signed in free agency. So for now, they want to be traded or whatever the situation is. They don't like them. They don't fit Paul Guenther's scheme. I mean, did you not see this? You know, when you were signing these players in free agency, it just boggles my mind. And Gruden is taking away all the, you know, the players. He's putting players on, benching them, doing this, doing that. Paul Guenther every week does not know who he has. I mean, you know, so I don't blame Paul Guenther and say he's misfitting players, because every week he's got a new player that Gruden wants to play, to be showcased. And he's like, all right, I wanted to go with that other guy, but you want, you know, this person here. You benched Garyon Connolly for 4 weeks, so I couldn't see what I got out of him. All right, now I got to put in this guy. I got to put in this guy. So I don't blame Paul Guenther. I think he's a great defensive coordinator. I don't blame him at all. I don't think he's killing the Raiders defense. I think all the moves and the decision-making by the front office, specifically, let's say Gruden, is killing the Raiders defense at this point.
Yeah, I think you're making a big assumption there that Gruden is the one responsible for all the benchings. I think that, I would encourage you and others that have that opinion to consider the idea that Guenther is more calling his shots here. That everything that we've ever heard from Guenther and all signs point towards he has a lot more say in the personnel than anybody else in the coaching staff. More so than any of the other assistants or positional guys, that Guenther has more of a say over not only the scheme, but of who is going to be out there getting that playing time. So I would say that this is not just Gruden throwing these in his lap. I think that this is probably more of a conjunction between these two guys. And so here's something I'm going to say about, to answer the question specifically. I'm going to target one position. Okay. We're going to talk about tight ends. All right. So is Guenther misfitting players killing the Raiders defense? The answer to that question is no, because you've heard me use this term before. Paul Guenther is running out of talent, and he runs out of talent every single game. We have two safeties, as you mentioned, Gilchrist and Carl Joseph, that are sub 6 feet, and their expectation is for them to cover tight ends that are 6'3", 4, and 5 inches tall. Now, the Raiders, from an organizational perspective, drafted a safety to do exactly this, to cover tight ends. His name was Obi Melifonwu. We got hurt. We put him on IR. He went to waivers, and then ultimately he's at a workout with the Cowboys and the Patriots, but he still hasn't signed anywhere because he's got a questionable work ethic now and some other things that have come up. But the Raiders drafted specifically to do this, to cover tight ends, and here's why. So it's not necessarily, this isn't a Gruden thing, this isn't a Gunther thing, and heck, frankly, Mikey, it's not even a Raiders thing because they tried. This is the guy that they chose, didn't work out. And so here's why they did that. And listen, if you think it's bad now, with these 3 tight ends and what they did against the Raiders this last week, not only has it been bad for the past couple of years, it's not now, it's the past couple years, but it's for a long time prior to that. And I'm going to throw out a few stats at you, okay? Hunter Henry, the tight end for the Los Angeles Chargers, has a 73% catch percentage against the Raiders, okay? So that means that he's been targeted 15 times. He's caught 11 passes for 201 yards and 2 touchdowns. That means 73% of the time they throw him the ball, he catches it. All right, Julius Thomas, you know who he is, former tight end of the Denver Broncos and now with Jacksonville and Miami. Same story, 23 receptions, 240 yards, 63% catch percentage for 5 touchdowns. Virgil Green, same story, 61%. He's caught 13 passes for 147 yards and 3 touchdowns. And now I hear some of you are saying, well, Murf, those are the guys that play in our division. Well, Martellus Bennett doesn't play in our division. He doesn't even play in our conference. He played for the Bears, which in 2016, when all the year that we were supposed to win the Super Bowl, how about when we got our butts whooped by the Bears, 84% catch percentage in that game. Martellus Bennett, 11 receptions for 83 yards and a touchdown. And Mikey, I got lists of this. It goes on and on. Gronk, A.J. Derby, Delaney Walker, and the daddy of them all, Antonio Gates. Antonio Gates has been playing games against the Raiders since 2003. That means 30 times he's played our team and 30 times he's owned us. He's caught 1,400 yards on 110 receptions and 13 touchdowns. That means every 10 times he catches a pass, it's in the frickin' end zone. This has been going on for a long time, way before Gruden, way before Gunther, but even before Carl Joseph and Marcus Gilchrist, and the only time we had any success at safeties covering tight ends, Charles Woodson. So until we make another big move at safety, just get ready, get used to it, Raider Nation, because what happened this last weekend is going to continue to happen to us for the rest of this year.
Great faction stacks, and that's what we pay you for, Murph. I was showing the stats from the game while you're talking, so there's no need to report on every single stat. We all got the gist, and you guys can look it up online, but I was showing all the stats and all that other stuff. And then here's a little interesting tidbit that we can end this segment with is Derek Carr is now 3rd on the all-time list in terms of passing yard. That's a good thing to talk about. There he is. He's just passed Darryl LaMonica for most career passing yards for the Raiders underneath Rich Gannon, which he will surpass. And I hope, not in a bad way, but I hope he surpasses Ken Stabler. I hope he's with this team, into next season, and he becomes the all-time career passing yards for the Raiders because we need another star-studded quarterback.
Yeah, you want your kids to be better than you, right? You want them to find more success in life, however you choose to define it. You want them to be better than what you were, and this is the same thing. I hope not only Derek Carr, but every subsequent Raiders quarterback that plays for the Silver and Black, I hope they all leapfrog one another in terms of records and all that stuff. That's what you want, man, right? I mean, look, I'm a Kenny Stabler guy. That's my guy. That's my all-time favorite player, but I hope Derek Carr blows his records out of the water. I hope he flies right by him.
I saw this stat, so I wanted to show it. I haven't done it in every week, but this is the snap count from the offense and the defense. And Brandon LaFell, barely being activated off the injury report. And the 46 snaps, Jordy Nelson, 45. But here's the kicker. The 3rd-round pick, Martavius Bryant, Gruden's White Tiger, only 7 snaps. In a game in which they lost Amari Cooper, and you think Martavius would step up that much even more, only 7 snaps. Very interesting. And then on defense, Darryl Worley, 78. Garyon Conley, 76. in a showcase. Just interesting stats to look at, man. You guys can judge that and move on. All right, Murf, it's time for us to tell some real ghost stories on this Halloween spooktacular. It's time for the fun. We need the fun. We need the fun, Murf. So I'll just start with you. Do you honestly have a real ghost experience of something that scared you in terms of the dark side of the world?
Yes, I have one that scares me still to this day when I think about it. I was in the 7th grade, Mikey, and I moved towns. I mean, I still lived in San Jose, but I moved from one neighborhood in San Jose to another neighborhood. And in the old neighborhood in San Jose that I lived at, there was a kid I went to school with. His name was Arnie Fowler, and he was crossing the street, and a car swerved around another car that was stopped at the crosswalk waiting for him to cross, and it hit him, and he died. Okay. When I moved, so then I moved to a new neighborhood, and like months later, okay, and there were some kids on like a stoop on their porch playing with a Ouija board, and even back then, I never would ever touch anything like that. It would just that stuff. Like, I don't know if it's real or not, but I'm not taking the chance to welcome that. This was before Paranormal Activity, even, right? Like, this is just I just didn't want to do that. So. I'm telling the kids, I'm like, this is just a bunch of crap. This is a bunch of crap. And they're like, oh yeah. They're like, well, ask it a question. I'm like, no, I'm not going to touch it. And they said, well, we'll ask it for you then. And I said, okay, fine. I said, ask it how Arnie Fowler died. So 2 kids I don't know, and I just made a new acquaintance of in a new neighborhood, sit down at this thing, and I watch it go C-A-R. And little Murf, I'm getting chills right now. Little Murf ran home as quick as he possibly could, and I got into the house, and my dad spun around in his chair, and he goes, I swear to goodness, this is the absolute truth. He says, what's the matter, son? You look like you just saw a ghost.
Yeah. Look, those, that
freaks
underworld,
me out still to this day, man.
Those Ouija boards and stuff ain't no joke. Ain't no joke, man. I feel you. I've had my experiences with that. I don't deal with it, but my scariest story is I found out ghosts were real. I was about 9 years old. We lived in an apartment building. There was think of like a block or a brick, and there's like 4 apartments on that row. We were number 12. There was a number 13, a 14, and a 15 on that row. And I used to go outside and play and do marbles and whatever the heck I used to do. My dad was always at work and a day job. My mother, she was around, till a certain age. Then, she moved on. But I used to just go out and play by myself. And one day I went out, and then I saw this little girl. And then I was like, hey, and then she was playing these little metal things with a little rubber ball, like throwing it against the wall and picking them up. I didn't know what that game was. I played marbles. Her name was Cindy. She goes, this is Jacks. I'm playing Jacks. I go, all right, can I play? So she starts playing with me, and then she says, oh, do you want to go into my house? I'm like, you live here? And then apparently she's in number 13. So we go in, and I don't remember seeing any furniture or anything because I asked her the question, oh, you live here? Because I don't remember anybody. And she goes, oh, we're just moving in. I was like, oh, okay, that's great. And then I had a play date with another friend of mine, Raphael, my best friend. I go, hey, I gotta go, Cindy, but maybe me and Ralph can come by later and we can get to know each other. I'm like 10, 11 years old. I don't know the exact age. It was really early on in my development. But so I come home later, and then my mom tells me, how was your day? I said, oh, I met Cindy in apartment 13. She goes, there's nobody in that apartment. I go, yeah, this little girl, Cindy, we were playing jacks. She goes, there's nobody in that apartment. So she walks out. Nobody's there. Doors open. People can look, to rent the apartment. Then we go to the landlady. Her name is Jan. Then Jan goes, yeah, nobody's in that apartment. We leave the door open so people during the day can walk in and look. She goes, nobody lives there. I'm like, well, my mother tells the landlord, Jan, my son played jacks with a girl named Cindy. And then the landlord goes, Cindy? No way. Like, how did that name come out? Jan told my mother the story that Cindy died in the bathtub 7 years earlier. Whoa. In that apartment. How could I make up the name Cindy? play jacks with that girl in that exact apartment when a young girl drowned accidentally in that apartment about 6 or 7 years earlier. Wow.
That's crazy. It's a good one.
Yeah, I met a ghost. All right. The scariest movie, I want to share this with everybody that I will never watch again. I will not. I don't want to go near it. Is Communion. I don't know if it's a horror film because this is a horror themed episode, but Communion is about aliens, and it scared the poop out of me. I think I was abducted by aliens when I was growing up. I got a lot of stories in my head that came true or what. I don't know. My brain is a little bit different, guys. So again, that ghost story, it just seems like maybe I see things differently. But Communion, my scariest movie of all time. Do you have yours? We didn't download the graphic. My apologies.
Yeah, for me, it's slam dunk The Exorcist. Always and forever, that one. And especially, since I, became a Christ follower, started going to church and stuff, it's like some of the imagery and some of the things in that movie are just, I'll never, ever watch it again. And it scared the crap out of me long before that too. My dad was a big movie buff. And I mean, from when I was a little guy, I watched movies like Apocalypse Now and, The Exorcist and Animal House. And I mean, he let me watch everything, there was. And so those things had a lot of had a deep impression on me as a kid. But yeah, Exorcist, man, like I haven't seen it in, I don't know, 30 years probably, but I can recall vividly, numerous scenes in that movie, dialogue. I mean, I can recall a lot of it like I saw it yesterday. So, and I like scary movies, and we watch a lot of scary movies in our house. We love, I don't care. Like I mentioned, the Netflix series that we've been watching here lately has been good. Of course, and we love all the Halloween movies and Nightmare on Elm Street and Jason movies, you name it. I mean, we like them all, but the most scary ones to me are the supernatural ones. Those, I mentioned Paranormal Activity. That was a pretty good one. That was a good little creepy movie. That stuff, like the slasher flicks and like that stuff really doesn't bother me too much. But the supernatural, The Omen, right? Things like that. Those are the ones that Rosemary's Baby, like those are the ones that kind of freak me out a little bit. So, but definitely Exorcist is the king of the scary movies for me, and always has been and always will be.
So do me a favor, Raider Nation, for a Halloween-themed event for you and your family, go out and watch these movies that we're recommending. See if they scare you as much as they did us.
Don't let your kids watch The Exorcist.
Well, I don't care. I want the kids to watch it. Go watch Communion and The Exorcist for a Halloween theme and see what happens. No. Again, I told my parents after watching this movie, I told my dad that I've seen these in my room. That's why it scared the hell out of me. Again, my brain, I don't know. What's your favorite Halloween movie? Mine is Gremlins. I don't know if it's really considered a Halloween movie, but I consider Gremlins my favorite movie that I'll watch every year at Christmas and at Halloween.
I would say, as far as Halloween movies go, Nightmare Before Christmas is definitely my favorite. It's by far the favorite in our house. My wife loves that movie. My kids love that movie. In fact, my wife and my youngest son just went and saw the Nashville Symphony. They do a performance. They show the movie, and then the symphony plays all the music during the whole movie. And there's only about 30 seconds of that movie that doesn't have music in it. And so, and we've been there for other movies as well, Star Wars, and they do it for Harry Potter and all kinds of stuff. But as far as one singular movie for Halloween, I would say definitely Nightmare Before Christmas. And it's not real scary. It's just a real fun movie, and that's a great one for kids. But this is Halloween. This is Halloween. This is Halloween. Jack Pumpkin, or whatever his name. Jack Skellington, man. Yeah, absolutely. The Pumpkin King. Yeah, so we like that one a lot. And I'll tell you what, what are fun? I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old. And so for that kind of tween age, if you are looking for recommendations, somebody out there to scary movies to watch with your kids, some that are funner. Jaws is a good one. And Aliens is a good one. And the reason I say those is that some of the language can be harsh and whatnot, but because Aliens is sci-fi, like there's not going to be a xenomorph is not going to show up in your 12-year-old's bedroom. You know what I mean? So there's a little bit, they can disassociate easier than watching something that's like more real world, like haunted housey kind of stuff, things that they can relate to. You know what I mean? So yeah, Jaws or Aliens are fantastic movies to share with your kids.
Check them out, Raider Nation. If you guys want to watch the movies that scared us or made us laugh and love, check them out, rewatch the video, and go rent them. Oh, there's no rental stores anymore. I'm sorry. You got to stream them. Thursday night football. The Raiders are on a short week playing the 49ers in the Battle of the Bay, or some might say the Battle of the starts with a G because both teams suck. And I don't know. It's just a bad reference. But I saw this. I want this chessboard. It's an NFL Raiders versus 49ers chessboard. I like unique Raider merchandise. Like I bought that Mickey Mouse, or you bought me that Mickey Mouse from the Raider image when we hung out. But like I like unique stuff. This is kind of cool, Murf. What do you think of that Raider chessboard, 49ers?
Yeah, I think that's really cool. You know, I have a brother that's a Niner fan. I don't admit that very often. Somehow the family gene mutated, and he came out as a Niner fan. But anyway, so yeah, like something like that would be really cool for our rivalries when growing up. That would have been a lot of fun. But this, you know, Mikey, as your headline says, this could be the worst game in NFL history. You know, the Raiders opened as 4-point underdogs to a team that's 1-7. That's pretty bad. But then also when you look at out of 784 primetime games played on November 1st or later, the combined winning percentage of 133 between these two teams would be the lowest in history. That's awful.
Yeah, I'm going to tend to agree. The NFL needs ratings right now, and when they put this, because we haven't seen the 49ers since that big fight, I don't know, like in prime time, since what was it, 5 years ago, 6 years ago? So this is a big one, especially for the Oakland natives and, you know, all that other stuff. But it's going to be real bad ratings. The NFL wants ratings, and they're not going to get it. So I don't know. Give me your expectations, your X factor, and let's predict the game. This is just a blah and moving forward, but let's do it.
You know, considering the way that this season has played out and that the team is, you know, such a deficit in terms of record, these are one of those kind of games like this could be our Super Bowl. I mean, I think we right now have a 1-game advantage on the matchup. Somebody in the chat, I'm sure, knows. But I believe we have a 1-game advantage. So if we lose, then we'll be tied with the Niners all time in the Battle of the Bay, where a win would give us the all-time record before the last Battle of the Bay. So this could be a Super Bowl, you know, playing in Kansas City at the end of the year, final game of the season. That could be considered a Super Bowl. Like, you know, when you clearly have no shot at a Super Bowl or any postseason period, I look for games along the way in the remainder of the schedule and kind of lock into those to get excited about.
Real quick, we're 4-point underdogs according to the report today.
Correct. Yeah. So I think this is the game, man. I think this is probably the one. Again, bragging rights for my family, you know, and I've got a lot of friends, even just outside my brother. I've got friends also. I barely claim them as friends, but they're Niner fans, and so this would absolutely give us bragging rights in that. And I know I'm not alone. There's a lot of people in the Bay Area, especially the South Bay, where I grew up, where you know, there's not really any one particular allegiance to one team or another. It's kind of down the middle. So yes, I hope the Raiders win this game. That's my expectations. They better, like, if you're going to get up for some, I mean, I don't know what else is left to get up for, right? Like, I mean, here's an old school rivalry, man. Let's hopefully kick it into gear with this one.
Who's your X factor? And give me your final score predictions.
I think Derek Carr's got to be the X factor once again. Although even though he played amazingly well, it still cost us this last game. So, but I'm going to go with him. He's the easy one to pick. And plus, I just think it would be nice to see him have another nice game. Like, I think the critics start to get shut up a little bit if he does back-to-back games. You know, throwing it with the high completion percentage, 3 touchdowns, whatnot. I think that will definitely quiet a lot of the critics. So. You know, I've been predicting the Raiders to lose the past couple of weeks, but I think we get off the schneid this week, and I think we're going to win this one big, Mikey. I think that there could be a shot at us winning this one by more than 2 scores. I really do. I think that they're going to come out, their guns blazing on this one. I think the mentality of the team has changed over this past week. I think they've regained some confidence. I know the Niners stink. The Niners are awful. We think our team is bad. Watch a freaking Niner game, man. They're trash. Now, here's the only thing. That Kittle guy that plays tight end for them, you heard all that stuff I've been talking about. He's legit, man. He is a very good tight end. So whatever it is that we need to do to account for him, the Raiders better do it. Otherwise, we could lose this game. But outside of that guy, I don't see anybody on this team that makes me nervous. I mean, I get more scared watching, you know, Charlie Brown at the pumpkin patch than I do watching the freaking Niners right now. So give me the Raiders 28-14.
Sounds good to me. I'll try to do a game review. My X factor, my expectations are it's going to be a fun-filled game. It's on Thursday night. I love it. I like doing it at home, cooking food, whatever, enjoying myself. That's my expectations. I just want a good game. X Factor could be Doug Martin. You said that everybody wants to galvanize. Carr was galvanized. Doug Martin had the fumble. He looked really mad. I think he wants to prove himself moving forward again. He is a free agent next year again. He might come out and just be galvanized as much as Derek Carr, and he could be an X Factor. That does it for today. What say you?
Thanks for everybody joining in. Appreciate everybody in the chat. I can't read it during the show, but I would definitely catch up every episode. And thank you for supporting what we do here on Mondays with Mikey and Murf and everything that you do to support Honor Nation. Please check out Murf's Fan Cave. Please hit that subscribe button either on the YouTube or especially on your podcast feeds, wherever you find your favorite podcast service. And man, thank you, Mikey. It was a great show, man. This was a lot of fun. Appreciate your hard work, my man. The backgrounds look great. The content was great. It was fun having a little spooktacular Halloween Raiders show.
Yeah, we got to do something different because this show becomes bland and it's just, you got to spice it up as much as you can. We're not 100% professional like some of the other shows. Even your podcast. I mean, I'm not trying to disgrade my show. My show looks kind of cool and has good, but your podcast, very professional. You got the intros, the good audio. It hypes you up, and I love that. And I hope that our show does that for you on occasion, but you guys got to check out his podcast. All the links below. Go subscribe. Support this man, his journey through loving the Raiders. I'm wearing a Chunk costume, so I gotta give you guys the truffle shuffle. I mean, you cannot wear a Chunk costume and not give the Raider Nation a truffle shuffle.
No way.
So here's a little video from Halloween on Raider Central in seasons past to end Mondays with Mike and Murf, because without the history of Raider Central and my stupid and silliness, we would not have a Mondays with Mike and Murf today. So let's watch this funny video from my Halloween special from years past, and let's have a wonderful day. Real quickly, Monday Night Football, who you got? New England Patriots versus the Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, I got the Patriots by a long shot, but none of it that will happen on the field tonight will be as entertaining as I'm sure what's going in the parking lot right now with Bills Mafia. Love those guys.
All right, I got the Patriots as well. I need Gronkowski to score 5 points, and I win a bunch of fantasy leagues. Let's go. Let's watch this Halloween video from years past.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
So there it is, Murph. That's me doing the truffle shuffle from years past.
Oh, I saw it. That was beautiful, man. You got a lot of cojones, my man. I applaud you for doing that. That was fantastic.
Like I said on our show when I did that rap song, Chunk Baby, he's my Goonie #1.
Love it.
Let's get out of here. This is Mondays with Mike and Murf. I'm Mikey. He's Murf.
Hey, and thank you for doing the truffle shuffle, but not showing us your one-eyed Willie.
And we will end the Halloween spectacular on that scary comment. See you next week, Raider Nation. Love y'all. Peace be with you, and let's get a victory, baby. Let's go.